morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up today. However, we have no athletes on the show. We're gonna kick off the show first with good old Johnny Cornell, and then the second portion of the program, we're gonna have Drew Copeland from Sister Hazel, talking about his career, what it's like to play in front of a big audience, and he's a big-time Gator as well. But first, we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Hey there, QB. It's just fantastic to be with you again. And I'm really pleased to see that the show is rolling right along and getting through all of this adversity. And I certainly wish I could figure out how to get this Zoom meeting thing going with my phone, but I'll keep working on it as we go through it.
Well, obviously you haven't been doing a whole lot of work while you've been on vacation the last 3 or 4 months, because pretty much the entire world knows how to work Zoom.
Well, yeah, it's true, but we still have the protocols in place to protect people by being able to be socially distant and meet with clients and so forth. But it has been very difficult because it has certainly slowed the pace of the momentum we had at the beginning of the year. And I just didn't think, or I would not have thought that with all of the things that we did earlier in the year, that we would be sitting here on July the 1st, QB, and we would be in a position very similar to where I guess we were back in March, because of things that have come back to haunt us, so to speak, with this virus. So having said that, we're done with the first half of the year, obviously. It's now July the 1st. We're in the second half of the game of the year. What would you say the score at halftime is between the world and the coronavirus, QB?
Coronavirus is kicking everybody's ass.
Kicking everybody's ass. So, I mean, it almost feels like we've got a running clock. And
yeah,
I really
high school game. Running clock. We're down by at least 35.
I mean, it is. It's 35-3. It's the Oilers and the Bills. It's the it's USC Notre Dame in the 70s. It's just been a very difficult time. I'm just glad to see that the show here, Pod Up, is continuing through it, and I guess we're just going to have to do the best we can. And I'm glad that everybody has continued to support the show as they have in the past.
Well, Corona ain't gonna kick Pod Up's ass. I can promise you that.
Well, that's pretty obvious.
So JP, let's talk about, there is some sports, obviously NASCAR. I know you're not a NASCAR fan, but the PGA Tour has been back in full force pretty much for, I think, 3 weeks now. It's been some really good golf, honestly. Although they need to set the courses up a little bit harder. Good Lord, these guys are tearing them up.
I know.
Have you watched any golf?
Well, yeah, and what you were talking about with Dustin Johnson last week is a great example of that. I mean, typically, you wouldn't probably see him in a tournament like this. This is one of the, the secondary events on the tour. Obviously, it's a great event. It's the Hartford Open, is what I call it, the Hartford Classic, the Greater Hartford Open, whatever, sponsored by Travelers. But I saw, Dustin Johnson just destroy the course, and typically, I think what I like about it is that even though there's no gallery and there's no, cheering and roaring and things like that, these players are still out there battling and they're still competing. And, to watch that leaderboard that we had 2 weeks ago at Harbortown with, 5 or 6 different guys at the top of the leaderboard going into Sunday, I thought that was encouraging. I like seeing, tight tournaments, and it's a shame we missed the U.S. Open. It's a shame we missed the Masters in April. Hopefully we can get that again in November. But I have been watching the QB because, I mean, what the heck are we going to watch?
No, I absolutely love it. And, they've had a couple of players and caddies test positive for COVID, and they just quarantined them, and they continue going on. And I think that's what has to be done from here on out.
I agree.
We got a couple of Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Melvin Law, where you matter most. Rick says, "What? JC is not an athlete, but he wears golf attire."
Well, I mean, come on, QB. I did not play Division I football, if that's what you're saying, but I was an intramural legend at the University of Alabama, and we did win the campus championship in softball, and I was the second baseman and leadoff hitter. So what does that mean? Does that mean anything to anybody?
No, it doesn't. So JC, the NBA is getting ready to crank up down at Disney. Your thoughts on all that? I know I think a few of the players have said that they don't want to participate. I'm not even sure the format. I know it's going to be a shortened season, but somehow they're going to still allow guys to somehow battle to make the playoffs. What's going on down in the NBA? You've been following any?
It's been kind of hard because of all the political divisiveness that seems to come into this sport with the NBA. We're in a very polarized and highly galvanized environment right now, and I don't know if I follow it the way I used to, because between what is going on with Black Lives Matter and kneeling during the anthem and the things that don't make me think about basketball has kind of taken my attention away from it. And I don't know on the athletic side of it or on the competitive side of it, just how exciting it's going to be with all of these teams cooped up in a hotel playing in virtually the same place. There's no home court advantage. There's no traveling. It just seems like a tournament that parents take their kids to over a long weekend in a certain town where they all compete in the same building. And I guess that's what we're talking about. But to tell you the truth, that's the extent of my knowledge on the NBA. I don't know who's good. I don't know who's winning. I don't see. And I guess that translates into the idea that I don't care. So I guess I will maybe when they start playing, because it'll be live sports, QB, and that's what I want to watch, because I don't know how much more Netflix I can take. I've experienced this idea of what binge watching is when it comes to these shows on Netflix. I can't say that it's a bad thing, because it has taken my mind off the idea that I'm not watching sports right now, and it has kind of opened my mind to other things. But I'm used to watching sports at night on TV, and I'm used to watching live sports. And obviously a lot of people and a lot of listeners and viewers to this show feel the same way about that. And I just don't know if the NBA has really captured my attention yet. Maybe it will once they get started. I mean, are you keeping up with that?
Well, they haven't started yet, but yeah, I'll definitely watch it. I'm the only human being in the world since coronavirus hit that has not watched one episode of anything on Netflix and will not watch Netflix. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. July is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Johnny C., John Cornell on the Titan No More Hotline. JC
now, QB, can you see me now, QB? I put my video up there. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see you. Somehow you have two Zooms working right now. I'm not sure how, but yeah. Okay, so you got your New York Yankees hat on. Are you excited for Major League Baseball with a 60-game season going to be kicking off here soon?
I mean, I'll take 60 over 0, QB, right? I mean, I'd rather see that. I'd rather see something like that than not have it at all. I thought at the onset, when they were having these labor disputes about income and about payments and about salaries, that it was kind of turning people off. So I'm glad they came to an agreement. I'm glad the owners agreed to what the players wanted and vice versa. And I think 60 is better than nothing, and I will take it. I mean, in this time, at this point in 2020, wouldn't you take something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think 60 games in baseball is not enough. I was listening, and I don't know where I was, but the people said that the one team that has the advantage in this 60-game season, take a guess who they think who has the advantage over every other team. Nope.
This one.
Nope.
All right. Wait, hold on. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves.
Nope. It's the Tampa Bay Rays. They said because their pitching staff is nasty, and they already have the way that they come into every game. Sometimes they start games with their relievers, but with a shortened season like that, they said it's going to be to the advantage of the Tampa Bay Rays. We shall see. Who knows? But that's just
we shall. I think hockey is also exploring a way to try to open, but TV, it's really going to come down to how far this virus spreads. I mean, I know to me, the player safety is important. Obviously, they're going to do what they can to separate fans or not have fans. but don't you think player safety is something that these leagues have to look at?
Well, professionally, I think, yeah, obviously. I mean, at the collegiate level, tons of kids have had it. Tons of athletes have had it, and it's only like a day or two that they're, it's like a regular flu or a head cold, and they're ready to go. So it's crazy where we are. I mean, Clemson and LSU have had tons of players. Florida's had some. Pretty much every school has. It's just how you handle it, and I think the big boys have handled it well. I know the University of Houston, they didn't even test kids when they came in, which was stupid, and then they had to shut all their operations down. So,
Yeah.
the SEC's on top of it. So, JC, talking college football,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? Do you think we play this year?
Yeah, if I had to make a bet today, I'd say probably not in August, no, and probably not in September either. Just because of the temperature of the environment right now. I don't know if anybody has a plan that's come out clearly and concisely on how they're going to handle the environment and how they're going to handle planning. I'm not sure these teams are practicing. I think that I heard somebody tell me that right now at Florida it's more voluntary to practice. You can tell me if that's true or not, but certainly I think that the preparations have begun. But I can't imagine right now, here we are July 1st, and everybody's worried about shuttering down again. They're closing beaches in South Florida. They're doing things in other states, and we're talking about in 6 weeks or in 4 weeks having players practice.
Well,
so you can probably tell me more.
The athletes will be in shape if they're ready to play. Everything pretty much now is voluntary. Supposedly sometime in late July is when they're supposed to all be back here. I mean, Florida has a bunch of their starters that are still in their hometowns training and working out, which is fine. The biggest issue is, I know we want safety of the players and we have to, but JC, I'm not talking athletic programs here. I'm talking institutions are not going to survive if college football is not played.
100%. I mean, I agree with that. We've already seen one school. I think it was a small college, black college up in Virginia somewhere, cancel the season already. And I don't know how that relates to its academics or its enrollment or its ability to survive as an ongoing institution. But I think it was it was Monmouth. I don't know I can't remember exactly what the school is. It just canceled the season. But it was Moorhead. It was Moorhead. I think Moorhead State. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of that just so that the school itself can survive, because putting on a football program is very expensive. And if you don't have the obvious top line to take care of the bottom line, to take care of all the people involved, you're not going to do it. So I think they have made that decision based on economics and also, of course, on player safety and their ability to handle any kind of outbreak. So as far as the SEC goes, obviously these schools are loaded with cash. There's a lot of money that they have. A lot of schools, however, don't have the same resources that others of their same relative size have. So some athletic budgets are healthier than others. And without college football, I think you'll see collateral damage hit us in the spring sports particularly. And I also think you're going to see a lot of pay cuts to try to keep teams alive. And unfortunately, that means that there's going to be a lot of things that are different that we're not used to. There will be adjustments, and there will be things that we may have to think about in relating to when can this start? If we do it, would it be pushed back into the spring? Would it be pushed back into December or February or something like that? Or do we just write it off altogether? And I just don't think we can afford to do that. So I would hope there's a contingency about pushing it back as opposed to canceling it altogether.
They cannot cancel college football. It doesn't matter. It has to be played within this calendar year at some point, because I'm telling you, and I'm not talking about UAAs going under or just the athletic programs. You can look that colleges, I'm talking the academic portions, will be shutting down because they're not going to be able to be financed. We got a couple of Facebook Live comments here, questions brought to you by Melvin Law, where you matter most. Ken wants to know, JC, what are your thoughts about the gator bait issue?
I thought that was something that took me out of by surprise, and I'm sorry I have to keep doing this to my screen here. I keep getting these drop downs. I think it's ridiculous. I'll just say that. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think anybody thought of this as being anything that had to do with race. I don't think this was something that had to do with anything that anybody considered in the very least to be offensive to anybody. In the 70s, when I was coming to Florida games with my father, who was a professor at the university, we would scream Gator bait as soon as the Auburn Tigers ran out of the tunnel. We would scream Gator bait as soon as the Mississippi State Bulldogs ran out of the tunnel. In LSU and Baton Rouge, they screamed Tiger bait. Now, there's a backstory to this, that the president of the University of Florida has decided that becomes more important than what the fans do at the game. And so because of that, he's made this decision. I don't know how they're going to enforce it. I don't know if people are going to really agree to it or believe in the story itself. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It just feels like the president is finding things that either the lawyers told him to look at or that he just decided to dig up in his utter boredom throughout the morning to bring out as an issue that I don't think anybody has any real, distaste for. This is not, to me, an issue, but they made it one, and so now we talk about it. But I can't imagine you telling 50,000 fans or however many we actually put into that place that when, the Kentucky Wildcats run through the tunnel, somebody's going to sit there and enforce that you don't say that. Now, of course, It's a band. The band's not going to play the, Gator bait, da, 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 Gator bait, and all that. But what's next, QZ? Are they going to hit you with the chop? Are they going to hit you with We Are the Boys? What the hell's going to happen? So I think we're talking about things that I would rather not talk about. I want to talk about conference expansion or realignment or 9 games in the season, conference games. I want to talk about things that seem to matter. And I really wish these guys who I'm playing golf with today would quit trying to text while I'm doing pot up with Matthews in the morning. That's what I would really like to see on this screen here.
Well, the Gator bait issue, I agree 100% with you. They're not going to stop, whether it's the students, the alumni, from Gator bait chants. It's just the band is not going to play it to start the chant. Now, I will tell you this: there are going to be people there's going to be somebody that's going to come back as Mr. Two Bits, and you know how he used to run from section to section doing the Two Bits cheer. I bet somebody's going to be going section to section and is going to play the, and get the people doing the Gator bait chant. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Personally, there's no racism involved in it at all.
No.
Several of my
friends.
Why
do you think this president came up with it? I mean,
because what's going on in the world today, and every black athlete that's played at Florida that I've talked to about this, they think it's ridiculous because, they've been doing it for years, and all of a sudden it's come to the forefront. But regardless of it, the band won't play it, but I can promise you it's going to be extremely loud if there are people in the stadium. It bothers me too because it was great for softball and baseball when the pitcher strikes somebody out, they played it over the PA system as the person walked back to the dugout, and the fans chanted along with it as Gator bait. So it is what it is. So JC, so you don't think we're going to be playing football on time, is what you're saying?
I don't think we're going to play on time. No, I would have said at the beginning of June, yes, but now with this resurge or the second wave or whatever you want to call it, the fact that there are higher cases out there that are testing positive. There are more people testing positive. It's now starting to hit a younger demographic. It's starting to hit, athletes in general as well. These guys they're just not going to do it. I was worried about, from a fan's perspective, how are they going to handle season ticket holders, boosters and such. But right now, in terms of just playing and getting the players on the field, I think it's going to be really hard because I don't think this is going to go away. We used to think of it as a 14-day incubation period, and then we'd be seeing things go down. I think because certain things that may have happened in May and April and June maybe, that the numbers, as long as they climb, I think that's obviously a bad sign for not just the health of America, but as far as the football world. I can't see either they or the NFL starting on time in September. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, we all want to see it, but it will come at the expense of taking a risk that I don't think these institutions are willing to take, QB.
Yep. All right. Well, JC, hit them straight today.
You bet.
And we appreciate you. I know all your loyal listeners and fans were excited to see you back on the screen today, even though you made us all feel like we've been drinking all day with the shaking of the screen. But other than that, your setting looks beautiful back there. Don't lose too many balls today, and we'll have you back on here shortly, my man.
I'm looking forward to it. And continued success, QB. We'll talk with you soon, my man.
All right, that's John Cornell. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Hey, folks, at Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient county locations to serve you better. Center State, remember, EIC. Our first time out of the program here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Drew Copeland, Sister Hazel. And you're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to fall. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gators Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Niapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshak Insurance, and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
The edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Hey folks, Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, Starbucks, and Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point. Let's go now to the Titan MR hotline. We're joined by, he could be the mayor of Gainesville, Drew. What's up, Drew? How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. So, I was joking around when I started the show. I was like, this is the first show I've had since we started this in January that I have no athletes on the show. that broke JC's heart. But
yeah.
No, seriously.
Me too.
Yeah, but you're like me. We'll get to this in a minute. You grew up in Gainesville, okay?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, obviously you played sports growing up, but when did you really get into music?
Man, honestly, not until it was late. Like my family, we grew up. The funny thing is, I'm the worst musician in my family. I really am. All my 2 sisters and my brother sing way better than I do. My parents were both musical. They could play piano. And, we grew up in a church that was an a cappella, singing church. And so I learned harmonies in church, but I never really had an aspiration to be a musician. I messed around with a guitar and I could sit behind a piano and just kind of figure things out, but never really dawned on me to be a musician. After high school, I went and played 2 years of junior college football up in Banner Elk, North Carolina. I played at Lee's McRae.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, yeah. I played up there for 2 years, and my dream was to get bigger and faster and come back and play at Florida. And we both know how that turned out. I got neither bigger nor faster. And so after that, I moved to Hawaii, and I was going to go out there for like just a few months and surf and hang out, and ended up staying there for 2 years. And when I moved back to Florida after that is when I met Ken at a tailgating party, and he started singing an old Eagles song, and I jumped on the harmonies with him. And all of our friends were socially lubricated at the time. They were like, "Man, you guys are great, man. That sounds beautiful." And of course, we were like, "Yeah, that does sound pretty good." So that's really, it wasn't until 91 that I even thought about it.
Wow, that's interesting. You know, it's interesting because all musicians wish they could play sports on the big stage, and us athletes wish, you know, my dream would be to be a country music singer. However, I can't sing and I can't play an instrument, but I'd love just to sit in the back, you know, in the background there and just act like I'm doing something.
Well, that's what I've done for 20 something years, man. I don't even know what I'm doing.
It's funny.
No, you're right though. You're right though. And I will tell you, and I'll geek out for just a minute and then I won't do it again. But man, I loved watching you play. And the fact, you know, I've been a Gator fan since I was born. I mean, I really have. And my parents lived at the bottom of 22nd down there. You know, if you go down 22nd from the president's house, right down past the creek is where I grew up. I could hear the stadium, you know, from my backyard when I grew up down there. But loved watching you play. Can't believe you played did you play for 16 years in the NFL?
14 somehow. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. That's a crazy amount of time to be playing in the NFL. But yeah, you're right though. It's funny how many musician friends I have that wish they were either pro golfers or had played pro football. Or, you know, Lee Bryce played football as well. He was a big football guy, and now he's a musician. But yeah, you're right, man. A lot of us, grass is always greener kind of thing.
Exactly. So, Drew, let's talk about Ken and Andrew. Obviously, y'all played a lot here in the Gainesville area, played at the Swamp, played different, you know, fraternities or whatever. Just talk about the days back before y'all got to be big, and we'll talk about Sister Hazel, but just you two guys playing in a college town.
Man, it was the happiest mistake ever. Because, you know, like I said, I had no idea what I was even doing. And Ken and I started booking these gigs, and we were roommates for a long time as well. We had a house over there off of 34th that we lived together. And I can just remember the times, you know, we would play for pretty much anything, like a couple of large pizzas and a 6-pack of beer or whatever. We were good to go. In fact, I can remember, do you remember the old Mill Eatery? Yeah. I remember playing there a couple of times, and unfortunately
They give you a bunch of free muffins?
Well, we would unfortunately, our bar tab would be more than our paycheck. And so they'd be like, well, here, we got some muffins for you. And we'd be like, man, I can't pay the electric bill with these muffins. But man, it was such a good time. We had, you know, we played all those different places. It's really sad to see the Swamp go, because later in our duo career, we would set up on the corner right there on that little platform and play music to, you know, it was always packed. So there, you know, that's going away. You know, Rickenbackers, back in the day, we used to play there all the time with, you know, and it's funny too, because do you remember Jack and Britton? Remember those guys? There was another duo in town, Jack and Britton, and the four of us would get up and do this 4-part harmony thing at Rickenbackers, and it would just be packed. But those were such good times too, because that was back, you know, 96 is when the band kind of started to take off, and obviously Florida football was doing really well at that point. So those are really great memories, especially for, you know, me and Ken. We had a blast. It was, you know, we basically throw up a couple of speakers and a couple of stools, and, you know, it was kind of instant party. So we had a lot of time. We had a lot of fun doing that. He and I have gotten back to doing some more of that. We can't do quite as much as we used to because the band schedule was staying so busy, but we get back to that every once in a while.
We got a quick question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Melvin Law, Where You Matter Most. Jeff wants to know, were you inspired at all by the Gainesville boys, Tom Petty and Stephen Stills?
Man, absolutely. I mean, you can't really grow up in this town during this time period and not be influenced as a musician by Tom Petty. And it wasn't just the fact that that band was so good, because as a band, they're that good. They're people have often tried to put us in a specific genre. And one of the things I'm proud of is that as a band, we kind of make a sound. We have a sound. You hear us on the radio and you kind of go, man, that sounds like Sister Hazel. Well, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, that was that band. As soon as you heard them, you knew it was that band. But man, his songwriting, like the songwriting from those guys, just so incredibly creative. But yeah, definitely influenced by them growing up.
So let's talk about Sister Hazel. How did you guys all get the band together, and tell the story about how y'all came up with the name?
All right. So you remember I was telling you, I didn't really have a plan on being a musician. So as the duo thing was kind of doing its thing, Ken goes, man, he had been in bands and done the band stuff. And he goes, man, I really want to, start another band. And at the time I was like, man, I was graduating and I figured I was actually interviewing for jobs and stuff. I graduated from BCN at Florida and I was interviewing for jobs. And I said, man, I don't think this is for me. So I'll hang out until you find somebody to replace me, but then I'm going to go get a job and, move on and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, cool, just stay until I can replace you. But he put up some flyers and got some guys to commit to coming over. Jet Barris he was Jeff Barris back then, but it's Jet Barris now. He came over and was all about it. And slowly we put the pieces together. Ryan was kind of the last piece to come in. And as a guitar player, we literally struck gold when Ryan joined the band. But from there, things kind of took off. We started touring, and I had some things change in my personal life that told me that, man, I'll give it a shot, see what happens. We started touring around in a van, and, Ken wrote All For You. He actually wrote All For You back in like 91. When we first started as a duo, Ken had written that song like a bunch of years earlier. And we played it out as an acoustic duo, and it was, obviously people were catching on to it. But when the band took off, it really started taking off, and we were selling a ton of discs out of the back of a van. And so a record label flew down from New York, because basically what they saw was a lot of these mom and pop radio stations were playing All For You, and they couldn't get any of their bands on the radio. So they came down and said, hey, you guys interested in the contract? And being the rednecks we were from Florida, we were like, yeah, man, a contract. So we signed up, and they plugged us into the machine. And, here we are 27 years later, with the band, and almost 30 years for me and Ken as a duo. So it's been a long, awesome road.
And how'd you come up with the name?
So Sister Hazel. So, like I said, at the time, I wasn't very invested in the idea of the band. And really, Ken was the guy that came up with the idea of Sister Hazel. And we had all known Sister Hazel Williams growing up in Gainesville. She ran a rescue mission here where she would take people from all walks of life and kind of give them a place to regroup and dust off and get back to their lives. And it was an unconditional regard for everyone. And we kind of felt like the music that we were putting out was something that a lot of people could gravitate towards. And so Ken decided to name the band Sister Hazel, and everybody was fine with it.
So are there a lot of college, I guess being old, I'm not around the college campus that much, but it just seems like back when we were growing up, you had REM from Athens, Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Blowfish from South Carolina, you guys from Florida. Are there a lot of college type bands these days?
Oh yeah, man. Well, you know what? The way you were saying that is correct. I don't know these days, but I know like Better Than Ezra was from LSU. It was kind of that way. It was funny how many bands there were kind of associated with that SEC town, which was cool. And it was also weird as a band from Gainesville, because we took a lot of pride in being from Gainesville. You would go into Athens and you were like, they know where I'm from. You know what I mean? It was one of those feelings when we were in college, but yeah, I don't know so much if there is now. I know that a lot of the country guys, some of those solo artists, they're real strong on there. There's some Georgia Bulldogs and stuff like that I have to put up with, but Not so much as it used to be, I don't think.
Yeah. We got another Facebook Live question here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Chad wants to know, it seems like you and Ken both juggle family and tour life pretty well. How difficult is that in reality?
It was super, super hard when our children were small. And our wives had to shoulder a lot of the load. I mean, literally, they were like single parents when we would leave, especially early on. Later in our career, we kind of made a deal not to be gone for as long a stretches. We would, I think the thing we tried to adopt was 5 days was about the most without us being able to fly home and check back in and help our wives kind of regroup. Nowadays, honestly, it's funny you say that because with this pandemic, man, I'm not sure that my whole family's not going, do you have any shows you could go do? Like they're kind of ready for me to hit the road right now. But yeah, it was pretty difficult to juggle, but fortunately we were paired up with some pretty amazing women, and they've all helped us get through.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. So tell me this, y'all played national anthems, all different sports, all around the country, wherever. What was the one that stands out the most to you? What was your favorite?
All right, there are a couple. I'll give you two. One of the ones that stands out the most, do you remember that Monday night game? There was a Monday night game. I mean, it's been, I don't know how many years ago, but Hank Williams Jr. does the whole Monday night football thing, right? You know, are you ready for some football? Well, apparently he had compared Obama to Hitler or something and caused all kind of controversy. And so they scrapped his theme song it was a Bucks game. And Ken and I were doing the anthem at the Bucks game. And literally like right before we walk out to sing the anthem, they go, hey, we scrapped the intro to Monday Night Football and we're doing the anthem live. Like a Monday night. So it was like, and normally, man, honestly, I'm too dumb to be nervous. I just kind of do my thing. And especially in a situation like that, you can't really see any faces. And if anybody is booing, it's usually mixed in with something else and I can't hear it. So I don't really get nervous. But when they told us that we were going live for Monday Night Football for the anthem, I was nervous. Like we were nervous. We were both kind of like, dude, are you kidding me? And in big stadiums like that, the echo and the delay is so bad that Ken, a lot of times he'll like stare at my mouth to like so we can stay in time when we're singing. And then I normally just close my eyes and I open my eyes one time and I look up at the Jumbotron and Ken's like staring lovingly at me, you know, it's like, oh, and I was like, it's so awkward. But I knew that it was okay when we were walking off and my phone started buzzing. And Darius Rucker was one of the first people to say, hey, good job. And I knew, because we rag each other all the time about different stuff since he's a Gamecock and I'm a Gator. So the fact that he gave a compliment, I was like, all right, we must have made it through. So that was one. And sorry, I made that such a long story. The other coolest one was, lately that I've been watching that. Actually, I finished watching that Last Dance. Did you watch that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we got to sing an anthem at a Bulls game in Chicago with Jordan and Pippen and all those guys standing behind us. And that was really cool. Like to be able to look back at that and, remember that stuff. That was a really cool moment.
When you sang in Chicago, were you in the old Chicago Stadium or the new United Center? You would know. It was the Chicago Stadium was a dump, but it was.
Yeah, no, this must have been the newer. This must have been the new. Yeah, it must have been the newer one. Yeah. We actually got to do a few of those, but like when Joe Kim was there, we did an anthem as well. So we've done a few there.
So Todd on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. He says, y'all have played in a lot of venues, including the Grand Ole Opry. What are some of your favorite venues over the years?
Man, it feels like it's been a million years ago now, but one of the coolest experiences was we did 2 different summers. We toured with the Allman Brothers. And the very first summer we went out with them, we played at Red Rocks out in Denver, Colorado. And man, that was such a cool venue and a cool experience, especially with them. That was the very first show of that run. We did 2 nights there, and it was pretty surreal for sure. That was a cool moment.
So how many Gator guitars do you own?
I've only got that one. I love it. I have to be very careful where I bring that out, but I've just got that one Gator guitar. It's the only one I've got.
And y'all done a lot of stuff. Y'all have a really good relationship with a lot of the coaches here that have been through Florida's programs.
Yeah.
Just talk about how cool it is to do stuff for them, because I know y'all have a pretty good relationship with the coaches.
Yeah, man, we've been really lucky in that way. And Ken and I both are huge. We're huge fans. And it's just we've been really fortunate that we've been able to either cross paths at some place or another and develop relationships with them. You know, Coach Spurrier, I love Coach Spurrier. He's hilarious. But even when he sees me like by myself, he doesn't call me Drew. He says, "Hey, Sister Hazel boys." Like, and I'm like, it's like, Coach, it's just me. But yeah, no. And like when Will was here, Will literally grew up. He was where I was mentioning where I grew up, that house down off 22nd. He grew up like a 9-iron away on the creek over there on Hogtown Creek. So I knew Will before he got hired, and got to be good friends with Urban and Coach Mullen. We've met a few times and exchanged some texts. I hadn't gotten to hang out with him much, but it's kind of cool just to be tied to the program that way. And especially like I was saying, Shane, for me, man, my dream growing up was to play at Florida. I mean, I literally I dreamed about playing for the Florida Gators. And so to be able to have that kind of access that's fun for me.
So let me ask you this. In college football, obviously, part of the ceremonies before the games, the bands play the national anthem. What would it mean to you and Ken and Andrew to get to be able to sing the national anthem before a Florida game?
Dude, it would be, and look, we've talked about it. In fact, I've talked to Jeremy about it before. It is something that the band does. So, and I think that's one, it's a moment for them as well. So I don't know what it would take to make that happen, but man, I would love that. It reminds me, and I posted a video of it. I don't know how it's when the pandemic started back in March, I guess, or maybe in April. But the Gator Growl that we played back in, like, I think it was 98, we played Gator Growl. That was literally one of the coolest moments for me in the history of the band, just because they didn't, we made a cameo on the big screen and talked about how, that we were touring and all this kind of stuff. And we were a surprise. And so, these fireworks go off the front of the stage, and then there we are playing. And this is back when Gator Growl was like packed. I mean, the entire stadium was packed. And so that was really cool. But to sing the anthem at a game, that'd be a real honor. That'd be really cool. Can you make that happen? Do you have that kind of pull?
I don't have much pull over there, but I will try my hardest. What about you two guys being Mr. Two Bits?
Oh, dude, I'm all about that. I'm all about that. I've seen some of them, and I know enough to know I could at least do what they did.
So tell me the story. You guys used to play at Napolitano's as well. Tell us the story when, because that was Coach Spurrier and the coaching staff's hangout back in the day. Talk about the time when they were celebrating after coming back from the SEC championship game. What happened there?
Man, those were such cool times too, because back then I had no access. I was just a dude that played acoustic guitar. But they came in, and it was always a lot of fun. And man, after winning the SEC championship, and they went at pretty good. And they left, everybody closed up, and Ken and I were packing up our stuff, and they left the SEC championship trophy at Napolitano's. So Ken and I were like taking pictures with the trophy and stuff. But those were good times. And then they would come in on Sundays sometimes just randomly when Ken and I would be playing up there. But I've got some funny pictures of the sign out in front of Napolitano's. It says Ken and Andrew, D-washer wanted. And it was always like, me and Ken would always argue, like, I'm not the D-washer. I'm just telling you that right now.
Oh boy. So I remember seeing a video, gosh, I don't know how many years ago this was. You and Bates did a little Tennessee Luther Ogle song. Did you write the song, or did Bates write it? No, man, Bates did. That dude is so creative. It's a joke. And he's hilarious. Like, I love hanging out with him. Yeah, he had written that, and we came in and we just ran it through. It's funny too, because it's one of those things that people keep going, y'all need to do that again.
but it's one of those things. It was really special where it was, and it probably should stay there. Like I'm not sure, the old Luther, us being older might not be quite as funny as it was back then.
Drew, talk a little bit about, y'all are involved with a lot of different charities, Sister Hazel. Talk about some of those and what they mean to y'all.
Man, we have our charity called Lyrics for Life, and very passionate about it. It was something that Ken carried with him for a long time. He lost his brother when he was just a teenager. And given the platform that we've been given, because, man, everything, I mean, you know how it is, and I think you feel the same way, even with as much work as you put in. You're blessed to get to do what we've done.
Right.
And so it's never felt like an obligation. It's always felt like just the right thing to do, is to try to give back in some form or fashion with this platform. And so Lyrics for Life is our charity. We do a lot of stuff for other charities as well. And in fact, right now we're right before the pandemic hit, we were in the middle of shooting a pilot for a show called The Heartbeat. And so we've been doing these little mini things on Facebook or on YouTube that are just called Sister Hazel's The Heartbeat. And we try to shine a little bit of focus on these people that have a platform and are doing good things with charity. There's so many negative stories about celebrities and athletes and everything like that. Every time an athlete hits his wife, it's going to be on the news. What you don't know is the hundreds of athletes that are out there right now that have a platform, that are giving back to their community. They're raising a lot of money for really worthwhile causes. And so we've been trying to shine a light on some of that positivity. And so it's always been a thing for us. It's never something we felt obligated to do. It was just something we were drawn to.
That's good stuff. We're speaking with Drew Copeland here on the Titan More Hotline. A couple more minutes left with him. So I got to ask you this. All the people you've played in front of for years and years, have you ever forgotten words to a song during a concert?
Yeah, I'm not going to – I hate to call him out, but it happens to Ken more often than it does to me. But the great thing about us having so many harmonies, and really we catch each other like a lot, but it's very rare that we're both going to forget a word at the same time. So at the very least, you're going to get one of us saying the right word. And that always helps. And it's funny because, we have each other in our ears. So anytime somebody misses a word, you're always kind of looking over at the other guy going, I heard that. I heard what you said. And that's not really what the words are. But yeah, we've definitely forgotten the words.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you is, being part of a band is like being part of a team. And obviously in football, your left guard misses a block, causes a sack. There may be some bickering between the quarterback and the left tackle. So have y'all ever had any issues like, dude, you messed up playing the guitar, the drum guy messed up, whatever? Y'all ever get into it at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, not nearly as much anymore. But yeah, there have been some pretty funny moments on stage that weren't so funny when they happened, but looking back at them, they are. But yeah, I mean, I have definitely been known to throw a baby fit every once in a while if something happens, especially if I'm having to sing lead, which I don't do a whole lot, but I do step up occasionally and sing lead on a song. And if it turns into a train wreck, there are times when I'll turn around and address a few people. And I always feel like that I'm masking it fairly well, but I'll always get a comment from somebody in the office, in the audience. Yeah, man, that made you kind of mad, didn't it? And I was like, oh, no, I was fine. It was fine. No problem. But yeah, no, that has happened. Yeah.
So what's going on through this pandemic? Obviously, you guys have been shut down. When do y'all plan to get back on tour?
Man, we're kind of letting things happen the way they're going to happen. Like we started out having a lot of conference calls, which were, as it turns out, were a lot of wasted time because we were making all these plans and we have no control over anything. So it's been pretty nerve-wracking, to be honest with you, because we've got stuff on the schedule. We had a super busy spring and summer, and all that just disappeared. And so there's stuff on the calendar, and we keep watching it, and we stay in touch with management, our booking agencies, and then you start to get closer, and all of a sudden it disappears, and then something else disappears. So we've been staying busy. The mandate from upper management is to be writing songs, which we should be doing anyway, but We're doing a lot of writing. Ken and I have been trying to do as much online presence stuff that we can. And we're just crossing our fingers that this thing starts to simmer down and we can start playing in front of audiences again. We can't make much of a living when you can only gather 10 people at a time. So until they start making that a little looser, we're going to be working from home.
Another Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Scott Whitaker says, thanks for using the platform you and Sister Hazel have been blessed with. God's got you guys. And
yeah, man.
Have his son Nathan Whitaker is going to be on my show tomorrow to talk about the books that he has written.
Yeah, man. Well, Scott's awesome. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. And Nathan's hilarious. And he posted something on Facebook about how much better he is. He's just going to be a better interview than I am. But he's a good guy. I've loved all the family pictures they took during the pandemic were hilarious. Good stuff.
So last thing before we let you go, I've always wanted to know is how long does it take to write a song?
It varies. I've literally written a song in 30 minutes, and I've taken 3 months to write a song. So it just depends on where the inspiration came from, whether, you can come up with a lyric idea, you can come up with a melody idea, you can come up with just a guitar change, something that sounds cool musically. And then you kind of start to build it from wherever that started. It all varies, man. Some of the songs that people have gravitated towards the most were songs that took no time to write. And then other times it's songs that took a long time to write. So it all just varies.
We talked earlier about athletes wanting to be musicians. This is a funny story. You know my son. So my son has taught himself how to play the guitar. And he has that app that it scrolls and it tells you the chords and the words.
Yeah.
So he loves Riley Green, Luke Combs, and Morgan Wallen. He wants to be one of those guys. It's hilarious. He sits upstairs. He's not real good, but he's gotten better. But you'd be impressed.
Yeah, well, Luke Combs is a good guy, and man, he has just exploded onto the scene. But you tell your son just to keep playing. Look, man, I had no clue that I was going to do something like this. So if I could do it, he can do it. And Shane, anytime that you want to come up and put a guitar on, I'm not going to plug it in, but anytime you want to come up and act like you're playing with us, you're more than welcome to join.
I want to do that for sure. No doubt about it. Drew, appreciate you taking the time to join us today, my man. You and your family stay safe out there, and hopefully you guys will be playing soon.
I appreciate it, man. Good to see you.
That's Drew Copeland from Sister Hazel. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. We're going to take our final time out. We'll be right back. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gators Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakau Insurance, and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Don't fight your area rugs. Take them to Area Rug Masters. With their convenient curbside services, you will never need to go anywhere else. Call 352-448-5999. And this day in sports, back in 1859, the first intercollegiate baseball game, Amherst beats Williams 66-32. Obviously, I don't know how that's a baseball score, but it was. Folks, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got a great show. We got Nathan Whitaker going to talk about the books that he's written on Tony Dungy and others. Also, Terry Norvell from College Sports Today. Today's show is a wrap brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care, folks. See you tomorrow.